Okay, psychology students, now you should have watched through the RACES example video and watched, how I build an essay or a constructed response using the acronym RACES. So I'm going to show you how I want you to do it with this very first writing assignment in psychology. So here's the prompt. I'm going to show you how to copy paste it over to the graphic organizer so that you can use it. Okay, so I've copy pasted the writing prompt. That's the first thing that you're supposed to do. The field of psychology is full of different perspectives and theories. In Unit 1, you study the major groups of psychologists and their theories. Okay, I don't have to worry about that. I don't see a question there. Describe the approaches of psychoanalysis, humanism, and neurobiology, and summarize in 1 to 2 sentences what they think about human behavior. Okay, so this isn't a direct question, but I can turn it into one. So I'm gonna bold that and think about it in a second. Okay, you can use the OLS, the slides from the live sessions, and the vocabulary list to help you. Okay, then read the different scenarios below. Use what you have learned about each of these approaches / groups of psychology and write out how they would interpret each event. Okay, that seems like a question. Okay, so these are my different scenarios. That's important. All right, you should have a different paragraph for each approach of psychology and fill out the RACE graphic organizer to complete the writing assignment. So now I'm going to click and drag. So this feels like it's part of my question. This is part of what I have to answer. So boom, right there. I'm also going to move this down there because that's important. And I'm going to move this down here. Okay, into questions. Describe the approaches of psychoanalysis, humanism, and neurobiology and summarize in 1 to 2 sentences what they think about human behavior. Prompt wanted you to analyze what behaviorism also said about human behavior, but I'm going to answer that question. And then you guys have to do the other 3. So I just reworded the question. I said, I took it apart and said, what does the approach of psychoanalysis say about human behavior? What does the approach of humanism say about human behavior? And what does the approach of neurobiology say about human behavior? Remember, you don't have to worry about this one. Then it says, then read the different scenarios below. Use what you have learned about each of these approaches, groups of psychology, and write out how they would interpret each event. So I have to take psychoanalysis and interpret 1, 2, and 3. I would take humanism, interpret 1, 2, and 3. And I have to take neurobiology and interpret 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to do it like this. Okay, so the way that I did this is I took each one and I said, how would the approach of psychoanalysis explain road rage or the extreme anger and behavior towards other drivers? Because I'm supposed to take what psychoanalysis says about human behavior and explain the different scenarios. So the first scenario, the second scenario, and the third scenario, right there. How would the approach of psychoanalysis explain helping a fellow student who had dropped all of their books down the stairs? And how would the approach of psychoanalysis explain a new student not wanting to join in any activities at their new high school? So now I've just taken the questions that I asked you in the prompt and expanded them. Now I don't need the rest of this. I still have the original prompt up above, but I kind of expanded all of these questions into individual questions. So I'm going to delete that. Okay. Writing prompt requirements. I moved all of my questions down. Now I'm going to go up and look at the requirements. So, all right. You should have a different paragraph for each approach of psychology. That means I'm going to have 3 different paragraphs. And it says that I'm going to have to fill out the organizer. So that's a requirement. And then it also says that I should use the OLS, the slides from the live sessions, and the vocabulary list to help you. Okay, so that's where I'm getting this information. I don't expect you guys to have memorized all of this. I want you to go back to the OLS or the vocabulary list or the slides to answer these questions. Cool. Now I've got to restate my... Okay, what does the approach of behaviorism say about human behavior? I'm going to say, reword this, behaviorism, like this. So behaviorism is an approach of psychology that believes human behavior is, and then I'm answering the question in the next step. Or I could do it like this. Human behavior is a result of, and then I'll figure out the rest later. I could also say behaviorists believe that human behavior, and then I'll figure out the rest later. Now, I didn't remember all of these, so I'm going to have to look them up with my vocabulary list. So here I am in the lesson plans, and remember I gave the vocabulary to you. Okay, so I'm here on the vocabulary list for this week. On the vocabulary list, I see I'm going down and doing a humanism. You can see all the ones that you guys are supposed to do: psychoanalysis, humanism, behaviorism, all of it's here. So I'm doing behaviorism as an example for you guys. I see people associated with this approach. I see the basic view of what causes behavior, and I see what they think changes behavior. And that's my notes / examples part. So let me think. Behaviorists, I remember this from the reading, and I remember this from coming to live class or watching the recording. What the behaviorists believe is kind of like stimulus response. They believe that everybody is a result of their environment. Punishment and reward have a lot to do with this. So I'm going to kind of take that general gist of information, and I'm going to answer my question. All right, I have my 3 different sentence starters, but I think I'm going to go with this one. So I'll delete these 2, and I'm going to rewrite this. Okay. I have the people, so I will say behaviorists such as B.F. Skinner and John B. Watson believe that human behavior is a direct result of a person's environment, and it only changes as a result of a punishment or a reward. They often manipulated the environment in experiments to prove a theory. All right, I think I answered the question. That's kind of what they believed, and that's what they believed about human behavior. That's right from your chart. Okay, for example, so we need a specific example of how I know that, rather than just I read it on the vocabulary list. I went with Watson experimented with the human response to fear using a baby as a subject. So he was trying to see how humans respond to fear, and poor baby Albert, he used him as a subject. Okay, that's my evidence, but I don't understand why that connects back to my original statement. I'm going to explain my answer. When the baby would see a white rabbit, they would startle him with a loud noise over and over again until eventually he became afraid of the rabbit. Okay, that answers how do behaviorists manipulate human behavior, or what do they think human behavior is a result of? Okay. All right, and the next step is summarizing, but I'm not going to summarize yet because I still have more questions to answer, right? So let's go back up to R and A. Okay, so I copy-pasted the questions just like I gave you guys. The first one, restating the question, behaviorists might say that a person with road rage if they think that the entire explanation for human behavior is a reaction to a stimulus or as a result of the environment, behaviorists might say that it is simply reacting to a All right, I think I'm pretty good with that. Now I'm going to restate and answer the second one. Behaviorists would look at helping a fellow student who had dropped all of their books down the stairs as a result of the helper's training or childhood environment. They might think that they are only behaving that way because they have been rewarded for kind behavior. Okay, and now I'm trying the third one. Behaviorists might assume that because they have had a difficult experience in school and they are afraid of new people. It's kind of how their brain was trained. That's what a behaviorist would think. Okay, now this is where it gets tricky and where I said in the first video about Frankensteining, so sort of stitching things together so that it makes more sense. So I've got lots of different questions here. My main question is still this one. This is my main point. So I don't need to find evidence for each one of these questions if I'm in the same paragraph. I don't need to find more evidence in this. I don't need to explain more than this. I've already sort of explained it. All of the answers to these questions go back to explaining my main point about what do behaviorists believe. So I only need to summarize once. I think I'm gonna kind of put it together and then come up with my summary statement after I'm editing. So I'm just gonna copy paste this all and put it in my processing box like I did in the video. So I like the first part. Behaviors such as B.F. Skinner and John B. Watson believe that human behavior is a direct result of the person's environment, and it only changes as a result of a punishment or reward. They often manipulated the environment in experiments to prove a theory. Okay, so I like keeping this sentence and this sentence up with that sentence because it sort of flows. So let me move that. Okay. Okay. I like all of my explanations, but I feel like I need something in between this and that. Maybe another explanation sentence. So I might need to add something. So what I'm kind of going with is behaviorists use this. All right, so baby is afraid of the rabbit. Loud noise happens. They're afraid of the rabbit. So I'm going to say it's kind of like talking about the cause and effect thing, and I didn't talk about that yet. I talked about result of a punishment or reward, and I talked about manipulating the environment. I didn't talk about the cause effect thing yet. Okay, so all right. When the baby would see a white rabbit, they would startle him with a loud noise over and over again until eventually he became afraid. Use this cause-effect relationship I'm going to say cause-effect thinking, maybe, to explain all human behavior. Okay. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I think I'm pretty comfortable with that. I think I said behaviorist too often, so I'm gonna say they might say that a person with road rage would simply react to a dangerous environment. Others will look at helping a fellow student had dropped all of their books down the stairs as a result of the helper's training or childhood environment. They might they also they might think that they were only behaving that way because they've been rewarded with kind behavior. Behaviorists might assume that a new student does not, why we edit, to join in any activities at school because they have had a difficult experience in school and they are afraid of new people. I don't know if I explained that very well. I am going to change it to they avoid new people because they are okay. I don't want to say experience twice. So they have had a difficult time in school and they avoid new people because they are unconsciously avoiding a negative experience. Remember, behaviorists believe that reaction. So think of like the conditioning, the cause and effect. So a lot of behavior is unconsciously done. You're not intentionally doing it. So now I need my summary statement. Okay, so my summary statement was overall, behaviorists think that human behavior is a result of a person's environment, rewards, punishment, and is often not a result of free will. So that sort of sums up my entire paragraph. And that's what you'll have to do for the rest of them. So you'll have to do something like that, explain in that sort of format for psychoanalysis, humanism, and neurobiology. Let's take a look at your rubric so you will know how you will be graded. This is your rubric. This is also what is included in your writing assignment. The first thing is restating the question. So you're going to be graded 3 points for each restated question. You're also going to get 3 points for each answered question. So you're going to answer the questions: what does the approach of psychoanalysis say about human behavior? What does the approach of humanism say about human behavior? And what does the approach of neurobiology say about human behavior? Answering all 3 of those questions will get you your 3 points. I also want you to cite evidence. So either from the reading, from doing your own research, or with a vocabulary list, I want you to give examples to prove how you know what each approach thinks about human behavior. Explaining your answer is going to be 9 points total. So you're going to get 3 points for answering how the approaches of psychoanalysis, humanism, and neurobiology would explain road rage. You're going to answer how the approaches of psychoanalysis, humanism, and neurobiology would explain helping a fellow student who had dropped all their books down the stairs. And you get another 3 points for answering how each 3 of the approaches would explain a new student not wanting to join in any activities at their new high school. You get 3 points for each summary statement. And then you get 1 point for each for just having the 3 separate paragraphs. That's the structuring of it. I included in the requirements. And you'll get 6 points for, in addition to your finished writing assignment, filling out and attaching a finished RACES graphic organizer for at least 1 paragraph. You don't have to fill out the entire graphic organizer for all of the paragraphs. I really just want 1. I want to know that you understand the process, and I want you to attach a graphic organizer. So that gets you to 30 points total for the writing assignment.